And there we are. Welcome, everyone, to the 16th episode of A Dash Assault with my special guest, NorZZa TV. Let's hear it. Standing ovation.
Hello.
You can't see him, but it's a standing ovation. How you doing today?
Good, man. Thank you for having me. I appreciate you reaching out and inviting me on the pod so we can talk all sorts of stuff.
No, I love that tweet. No, just so you know, I stole the idea, kind of, today. Just in general, I was like, hey, sometimes you need to do that, you know, shameless self promotion. Just throw it out there, get people talking. Because I like it. I
Yeah,
like going on other people's stuff, and not even just for like publicity, just for like to do it because it's fun to me.
yeah, I completely agree. It's good to mix up I guess, the monotony of general, content creation and whatever you're working on and everything. Especially for us, for me, like we're still in lockdown here in Australia, in my state. So, pretty much everything I do is stay home and sit at
Mm-hmm.
this desk. So it's always good to try and, do different things, talk to people, put yourself out there when you got the time. So
Well, I appreciate you stopping by today. I really do. And anyone that's ever been a guest. But for anyone who doesn't know you, introduce yourself a little.
yeah, so I go by NorZZa on pretty much everything, and I make educational and informational guide content on YouTube primarily, or single-handedly now only on YouTube. But as a person, I'm just your regular gamer. I really like basketball. I'm a huge Miami Heat fan. You almost can always see me wearing Miami Heat memorabilia in my videos and just around. I don't know if you can see. No, you can't. But there's a Miami Heat thing down there because it's more my backdrop's more gaming related because it's
Sure.
what most people relate to. So I keep a lot of the basketball stuff out of it. But yeah, that's me.
That's awesome. I think it's hard to hide my love for sports in general, but basketball and football. I'm a huge basketball nerd. Like I know way too much about stats and players and all that type of stuff. So I love it. I love to see another basketball enthusiast.
Hell yeah. Who's your team? Do you have a team?
I'm from Dallas originally, but I'm actually a Spurs fan because I just grew up a huge Tim
Right.
Duncan fan, like and
Yep.
Ginobili. They were like my
Yep.
favorite. Plus my last name's Parker, so Tony Parker growing up, like I just love that team.
Yeah, yeah. No, that makes complete sense. There was some good battles in 2013 and 2014
Oh my
in the
goodness.
Heat.
Yeah, I forgot about,
Oh yeah.
sent LeBron home crying that last
Yep.
matchup.
Yeah, yeah, no, I remember. I definitely remember.
That was such a. I know this is so off topic from everything, but that was such a great series. I'll always remember those because I think they battled it out 2 years in a row,
Yeah, two
in the
years in a row.
finals.
We got the first year with that Ray Allen shot,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then we went on to win the game seven. But
Yeah.
but yeah, you guys definitely very comfortably got the second year.
Yeah. I think we lost one game, and the game we lost it was only by a few points, and
Yeah,
then the games we were winning were about like 15 plus. So yeah, it was a pretty good series. It was a pretty good series for us as Spurs fans.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
So I haven't met anyone yet that has made the transition from Twitch to YouTube. How's that been for you so far?
Uh, Pretty stressful, I would say. I mentioned to you before we just
I was just about
went
to say.
live that my YouTube or like Gmail account was unfortunately hacked like this week, and I'm still in talks with Google to sort all of that out. So like if you search my channel right now, it doesn't exist,
Mm-hmm.
which is quite stressful when like a week ago I made the decision to move away from Twitch completely. So it's great timing for that, but
Yeah.
if we don't talk about that and just talk about the move in general, it was something that I was thinking about for a long time. Like I started on YouTube and
Oh
then
wow.
started
Okay.
making live content on Twitch as just kind of like an extension of that. And I eventually decided probably a couple of months ago, and then kind of played around with it a little bit. And through the month of September, I split my streams across YouTube and Twitch just to check numbers, interest levels, and the main thing for me to stay on Twitch for so long was the community that I had built there, and the people, and I just really enjoyed um, pressing the live button and talking to the same people, checking in with them and
The
seeing,
camaraderie is
just
nice.
having like banter. Exactly right, yeah. And something that I realized when I started doing the YouTube streams just to like test it out and whatever is that a lot of those people that I cared about were going to make the move across anyway. And my YouTube was significantly larger than Twitch.
Wow.
I recently hit 10,000 subscribers on YouTube.
Congrats.
I make regular content on there, and I just felt that I wasn't providing enough value on Twitch to warrant having it separate, and so I thought, well, I may as well just move across.
Yeah, before every guest, especially a guest I don't know much about, I become sort of a stalker, a creep, as you would say. I kind of just deep dive all into them, and I went deep into your YouTube, and I'm super impressed. Like just now trying to start this YouTube thing, with just the idea of like, hey, I've been watching YouTube for a while now, creators like yourself, and like, all right, let's do it. And then you think you're doing a good job until you see a video like yours, and you're like, oh man, I have so much more to learn. Like I'm very impressed by what I saw. It's like great quality, great editing. The times where you're voicing over something, like, so amazing. Like I will say credits to you, sir.
Thank you. Well, the editing, I would have to give credit to my new editor. I recently hired an editor. His name's Nick. He's fantastic. So the editing credit goes to him, especially in a lot of my recent videos. They're all his. But yeah, there's always more to learn. Like I don't think I'm an expert of anything in. Like I know a little bit, I know enough to get by, but there's always more to learn and more to grow. And you definitely, the same things that you might think when looking at me, I think that when looking at other creators, and I think it's every time you look at someone else, it's always humbling, and
Mm-hmm.
you can always learn from people, whether they're bigger or smaller than you, and there's just so much information out there that try and absorb as much as possible.
For sure. So you say you started on YouTube before doing the Twitch thing. What originally brought you to YouTube and content creation?
Yes. So I guess I was always interested in it. The very first thing for me was WildStar. When the channel is live again, if you scroll all the way to the very bottom, you'll see content for an MMORPG called WildStar, which has, since the servers have been closed down because of various issues that they had with the studio and not enough players, etc., etc. But my guild, and I guess for the game itself, there was a lot of people playing it. It wasn't super popular, but there was a lot of hardcore audience, and there wasn't really any creators for it at all. And I thought, why don't I just like start putting videos up? So I started putting up like raid videos of like us, like doing the different bosses in the raids, and then started doing some like builds and guide content for the game. So like, I was a healer for the game, so I made like a video about like my healing build and just like concepts for healing and stuff for the game, and that's kind of what started it. And then I moved a little bit into Fallout 4 because that
Love
came
it.
out in the same year,
It's
and
my favorite
that
game.
it's a fantastic game. But yeah, and then so I started doing a lot in Fallout 4, and then I took a break for like 2-ish years just because
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
focused really heavily on my work. So I got a new job, and I had to kind of prioritize that over hobbies, I guess, for a period of time, and then came back to the YouTube, and then in 2019, it just didn't really stop since then. Like I just kept making content, kept reiterating on my process and trying to find what works, and then found my niche of what worked for me, and then I've just been kind of pushing that as hard as I can since.
No, I always think that's super interesting. I feel like I'm in this period of YouTubing where like I don't have a niche. I'm kind of posting anything really just gaming stuff. It's stuff I enjoy gaming. Most of it's like stream stuff that I edit down into like a 20-minute video or shorter. But I know like that I've seen the successful people have come about becoming somewhat niche to not necessarily a game, but let's say like RPG, like you're doing yourself, and it really helps you dive into that alone instead of like, for me, like, here's a 2K video, here's a Back for Blood video, here's a New World video, like it's just sporadic and everywhere, and I feel like it's hard to gain a real viewership like that, or at least a viewership that will come back every week to watch.
Yeah, for sure. It is definitely hard. I think there's the people that say you need to niche down to a game, I don't think that's true, especially in
Mm-hmm.
my own experience. Like I haven't done that, but you need to find what that one or two, or I mean maybe three specific
I like
things
that.
are
Yeah.
that you are known for,
Mm-hmm.
and then make that. So for me, it's like character builds for RPGs and just general guides for RPGs. And sometimes like I'll branch out a little bit from that formula and do like a review here and there. I covered Deathloop, which isn't strictly an
Sure.
RPG really. It's more of like an action FPS, but it was something I was interested in, and it did well enough on the channel. And I think there's always room to explore and do different things, but trying to find what your specific thing is really important to. I guess it helps as well with thinking about what to post too. I
Sure.
found that that's helped me a lot with knowing what my core two things are. Like I can kind of think ahead of what's coming in the future and know exactly what I need to make for them.
How do you go about um, knowing what you are going to record or post, or as of recently, I see you've been on New World, and let's besides a character build or something like that, how do you go about coming up an idea of your next video?
Yeah, so like a bit of an iterative process initially where I was trying to work out what types of videos of like that guide content and stuff to come out with, but eventually I landed on I guess a core set of different things that I will make. So for RPGs, character creation is always so important. Like not necessarily how you look, but like what your stats are. You're gonna
Mm-hmm.
strength, dexterity, whatever the game's attributes are. Like there's so much in that. Plus classes, I'll usually have something on that side of things. I'll have like a general tips video. I try to cram as just much tips into those videos as possible, as like for like over 10 minutes, just cram it all in there. And then the character builds, and then is kind of the second thing that'll come out after that, and then whatever else, if there's other concepts that I want to explain, or just kind of find things that seem complex when playing the game that I find complex, and then think, oh, maybe other people have that same thought, and then that's kind of where that comes from, especially when playing games. Like if something stumps me, I know it's going to stump someone else.
Yeah.
So then I'll write that down, and I'll try and like come back to it later, figure out what was the issue and how to kind of
Gotcha.
fix it.
That's
So
very
while
smart.
I'm playing something, I'm always writing stuff of figure out this, or explain this concept, whatever it is.
Yeah, I truly appreciate the New World videos right now because I'm addicted to the game. I play it every moment I can. And after watching one of your recent builds, it was the bow. Oh, God, what else
Blood
was?
Hunter, I called it. It was bow
Yes,
and
yeah.
rapier. It was a damage over
Yes.
time build. Yep.
Which I had I hadn't used the bow at all, so I had no idea about the area effect attacks or like the poison attacks. I was like, I literally hit up my buddy. I was like, "Yo, watch this video. I think one of us need to do this build. I think this would be pretty awesome." So, yes, your videos caught my attention, and like, so I know it's catching other people's attention because once again, that's stuff that I didn't even know about. I thought the bow was useless, to be honest, and so you see something like that, and you're like, "Oh wow, like I'm missing out."
Yeah, like I always try and do things that are a little bit different too, like not directly, especially with a game like New World, you could go on YouTube and search builds, and you're gonna find probably 5 builds that are all identical from different
Yeah.
channels, and they're just the same videos. And I always try and go against the grain a little bit, do things a
No, I
little bit
like that.
differently. May not be the highest DPS build in the game, but it's still functional and it still works and it's enjoyable to me. So that's why I try and you know find enjoyment while still being competitive. And um, there's always that balance, I think.
No, for sure. And I mean, hey, coming from someone, I love RPG games. Wasn't always a huge MMO guy. I played, uh, your classics back in the day. WoW, EverQuest, um, a little unknown one called Dayside. I don't know if anyone's ever heard of Dayside, but I played that one for a while. But I haven't played in so long that when I got into this one, I really felt like a newbie. So I immediately went to the YouTube, looking up builds, looking up everything like that. And I think because I was just so ignorant to MMOs, I need that type of knowledge to be able to get further in the game, or I'm just going to be stumped and I'm just going to be stuck with a bad build. So no, I appreciate videos like that, and I think they do actually do well, right? Like people are interested, and the
Yeah.
nuance builds and the because I think for me, I immediately started with paladin, like a sword and
Yeah.
shield healer, and then I hated it. I hated it in the game. I was like, I want something fun, and now I finally found something that's fun. So I like the videos for that, you know.
Yeah, cool. No, I'm surprised you hated it because everyone seems to think it's the best thing ever. There's a lot
It's
of
boring.
paladins out there. Yeah.
It's just boring to me, and I wasn't
Yeah.
good at it either. I think that's the other
Yeah.
part of it. If you're not, I think that's very important. If you're not good at a build, just switch up to something new.
Yeah, no, for sure.
What's up, Robert? What's up, Brad and Echo? Thank you guys for being here. Appreciate you, and appreciate Robert for sending you my way. Like if him tweet me in that or retweeting your tweet is what brought me to you. So I truly appreciate it. So before
Robert's a
you,
great guy.
he is amazing. Another YouTuber, him and Robo, that I look at their content for inspiration, what to do, what not to do. Like I see
Yeah,
their
definitely look at that channel for what not to do.
uh-huh,
That's a good
uh-huh,
point.
exactly.
I'm kidding.
No, well, I mean that in the sense of like what I'm doing and what other people aren't doing. So it's more
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
okay, well, like I see, I should not be doing this. That's more what I mean. Not saying that like, oh, hey, they're making funny video. Don't come at me, guys. Don't do that to me. But hey, no, I love those guys. I love them. So when did you actually start streaming? When did you get into the Twitch side of streaming?
Twitch came around in 2019 when I came back from the break that I had on YouTube, and when I kind of came back to YouTube, I also started streaming about that same time, and just I think I was streaming like 3 to 4 days a week
Okay.
at that time, and just kind of growing from there. I started from scratch on Twitch at that time, like I didn't have an account. Well, I had an account, but I'd like never used it really.
Sure.
And then through COVID, as with everyone, like you kind of become a bit more serious about that kind of stuff, and became 3 days a week consistently on a schedule and everything, and yeah, and then so that's kind of where that community came from around that time. And I think 2020 and the COVID time for a lot of people out there and streamers, really helped with growth and finding new people and meeting new people. Like I know, we were just talking about Robert. Like I know I met him last year, and I think he was a COVID streamer. I don't even know that's a term, but came into streaming around that time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's probably the main time, I think.
Nice. And I'm always interested in this for streamers in other countries. Was when you first started streaming, did you have a time setting? Because I feel like most streamers, especially in other countries, I've noticed they have a lot of American viewers. Has that been a thing that you've noticed just grow? Or is it just like always
Yeah,
kind
I
of been
think
there?
a lot of my audience is actually UK based.
Oh, okay. Well,
From
that's still
when I
some time
was
difference.
streaming on Twitch. Yeah, because of I would often stream at Australian night times, which is like 12 hours from now. Like if it was like my usual stream day, 12 hours from now, I'd be streaming, right? And so for the most part for the US, that's like the dead of the night. So
Yeah.
there's not a lot of people in the US up. Like I had a few US people that just ran on those night schedules that would be around, but a lot of the audience was from UK and then Australia as well. It's probably primarily, and you can kind of tell, for me anyway, like I could always tell when, it's like, oh, it's about 10-ish o'clock UK time. A lot of the UK people are going to be starting to, jump on Twitch and whatever. And I think that's always a hard thing, being that I'm on the other side of the world.
Yeah.
To everyone, it's hard to find that balance, especially for live content, because like it's not like I can, with YouTube videos, like I post them at 2 a.m. my time because that's like prime time US time,
Sure,
right?
okay.
A lot of my YouTube audience is US based, so I know that's when to post it, so it just goes live at that time. But for a live stream, it's not like I'm going to be like, oh well, it's 2 a.m. best I better get up, and like I'm not going to do that. So you gotta find that balance, I guess. But yeah, it's tough. Like what time is it for you right now?
It is 5:20.
PM.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's 9:20 a.m. for
That
me.
is-
It'd be the day after too, so it's Friday
Yeah.
for me.
Thank
Yeah.
you so much for being here.
Yeah.
I truly appreciate it, for waking up. And is this the start of your morning? Was you just like, all right, I know I got to do this in the morning?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So I would normally be working Thursdays and Fridays. Like I work like a part-time job
Okay.
most days, but like I'm on leave at the moment, so like that's why I've made that tweet, because I've got a bit of free time. But yeah, I normally get up and get into it, but I pretty much woke up, showered, and come sat here and get into the pod.
Well, y'all are blessed with this presence today, at least at this time. So talking about kind of being a COVID streamer and everything, I kind of started streaming at the back end of COVID, at least here in America. I started streaming around March-ish, and I started to see, I was on Twitch, I just wasn't streaming, and then I saw the skyrocket of viewers, and then obviously with Twitch going kind of back to normal, at least, or I'm sorry, COVID going back to normal in the U.S., people started to fall off a little bit. Has that happened as much over there, especially with the lockdowns that are still happening and people still being more in their house?
Not as much. We're just about to come out of this recent lockdown. I think today is technically the last day. And I think the New South Wales, with the other big Australian state, was one of the other states that have been locked down for pretty much the same time as us, and they left lockdown last week. So I guess we'll see. Like, it's for a lot of Australians, we've in the main, like a lot of Australia is on the east side, in like Sydney, Canberra, and Melbourne and Brisbane. Like, we're mostly here, and a lot of those states have been locked down for as much as we have. So it hasn't been as much as like in the US. Like, you guys are more or less back to normal in terms of your
especially where I am.
Yes. Yeah, and I think even with that, like, there's definitely, I've noticed a drop off in US viewers. Like, when I was like on Twitch and stuff, people are moving around a bit more, and that's just kind of what comes with the, with people's lives changing and everything, and there's nothing you can do about that. And but I think as we kind of continue to get back to normal, as you say, like, I think the people that stick to streaming or doing whatever they're doing, like, you'll still come out on top in the end. People will find their grooves and figure out what they're doing long term.
Yeah, I think I don't remember the exact numbers, but Twitch doubled in that COVID time, maybe even more than that. And you see, if you're looking at the statistics of the full length of Twitch, that year becomes an outlier, or the year plus, it becomes an outlier, viewership, everything like that. So I think it's hard to see the growth of streamers a year ago and expect the same type of success or viewership or anything like that. And even the streamers that were doing that and were successful during that time, like, I think it's only normal to expect it to go down a tad bit, because it's such an outlier year. Like, look at the numbers before, look at what even the biggest streamers were averaging the year before compared to what they were during COVID to compared to what they are now. Like, it's definitely that wave of statistics that's happening. But I do think we're getting to a flat line of things. I feel like even me, like, I'm not a huge streamer or anything, but my number's been more consistent lately with the people who are there and stuff like that. And I think that's just because people are finding their new normal,
Yeah, for sure.
What kind of streams were you into since your content on YouTube is so RPG based? Did you ever go outside that loop a little bit, or did you mainly stick to that?
Mainly stuck to that. Like, the way that I saw it was the Twitch was a bit of an extension of the YouTube. So, like, if I was talking about a game on YouTube, I'd probably just be streaming it on Twitch. There was some time when I dabbled in some community games, like with my community, things
Always
like
fun.
Among Us, Fall Guys, that kind of stuff, Jackbox. We always did that occasionally. Did a little bit of Warzone when that was rather large. Everyone was playing that till their eyes bled. And so, I did a little bit of that kind of stuff, but for the most part, stuck to the same things that I was talking about on YouTube. Because I think the way that I saw it was that, if people came across from my YouTube, which a lot of my funnel, I guess, would come from the YouTube to the Twitch, unless they found me through Twitter or like another streamer or whatever. Like, if someone watched a YouTube video and then they came to my Twitch, it would be very jarring if I'm sitting there playing Animal Crossing and you watch a video like like you watch a video about me playing Wasteland 3, giving you this like highly complex like build, and then you come across and I'm just like chilling there playing Animal Crossing, doing fishing or whatever. It's be very jarring experience, right?
Sure.
So try to stick to I guess the niche as much as possible.
I could definitely understand it. Were there ever times you wanted to go outside of that a little bit, or did you definitely want to stick to that?
Yeah, definitely. Like, there's always games that you're interested in playing that don't strictly fit with like a niche, right? Like, there's, using Animal Crossing as an example. I'm
Yeah.
playing Animal Crossing again right now because of the direct
Okay.
that came out. My partner and I, we started again, and it's not like I'm gonna make content on it or anything, but it's
Yeah.
something that I'm playing. And you always have those times when you might be about to stream. It's like, oh, you would normally be streaming X game at this time. It's like, oh, but I really want to play this because
Yeah.
I'm addicted to that at the moment, or whatever it is. Um, and I guess got to try and find that balance. Like sometimes if I just wasn't feeling it, like I might just do whatever I wanted to do, um, play something else, do whatever. Like you had those. Everyone has bad days or
Yeah.
good days, and sometimes like you might want to do something else. Like towards the end of when I was like leaving Twitch, I think I streamed Overwatch just because like I'd had a really stressful day doing working and whatever, and
Yeah.
it was just like didn't feel like playing an RPG when I'd
Yeah.
just been playing and creating content for an RPG for like 12 hours. So, a friend of mine and we just kind of just hanged out and just played Overwatch for a couple of hours, and you always got to have those, I guess, moments of palate cleansing
I was just about to
and
say a
just kind of,
refresher, you know?
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think it can
Yeah.
get very monotonous in anything you're doing, especially like story-based games, or if you're just doing like Warzone and Fortnite, I feel like you even see those people switch it up. Your Nick Mercs and the people who do that, they switch it up as well. I definitely think it's a good refresher. And it was
Yeah, absolutely.
once again, like I said, I'm a creep. So I watched your last stream that you did that before switching over to YouTube, and I saw you going
Mhm.
through your analytics of like what you had streamed during that last however long you've been streaming. And it's so funny because I did it right afterwards, and you do get so like shocked by, oh, I forgot I played God of War on this day for
Yeah.
45 minutes, and it's just, that type of stuff is like, okay, I remember what I was doing that day. I remember my mindset during that, and it's just kind of cool to look back at those moments and see how far you've come, really, you know. At
Yeah,
least,
for
at least
sure.
for me, I look back at my old streams and whoa, they were trash, super trash. The setup was
Yeah,
trash.
mine are exactly the same, and I think everyone you go through that process, right? And if you think about where you are now, and you fast forward a year, you're probably gonna have that same mindset of the
Yeah.
stuff you're making right now.
Hmm.
That's just the way it goes, and I feel the same way about all the stuff that I've done. And even on that last stream that I did on Twitch, I went through and looked at some of my really old clips to see like the janky camera footage and janky overlays that I'd like made myself and
Yeah.
whatever. Like, it's just part of that journey, and it's cool to see go back and look at old stuff and kind of see how you've progressed and like where
Yeah.
you've kind of come from. I always find that interesting, and it's I guess, a good way to know that you're growing as well,
Yeah.
like in terms of your own knowledge and understanding of what you're doing and how to make better content. If you look at something from a year ago, you can see that progress that you've made, and it just kind of comes as you get a little bit better every day.
What's the thing that helps you progress and not stay in a stagnant area, or the thing that'll encourage you to try and make content better? Because I feel like you can just kind of get stuck in just doing the same thing and you don't even realize it.
Absolutely. For me, like I guess it's a mindset. I always, every time I start a new game, I always try and do something a little bit different or improve on something. Um, without getting into that, there's always that general kind of SEO, search engine optimization targets that you've got to hit on YouTube, right? If you're going to make a tips video, that's always going to do well. Guide, like there's certain guide things and stuff that will do well. So you're going to try and hit that with a lot of games, but um, trying to mix it up a little bit, do things a little different. Like recently, we changed like some of the transitions and stuff that we were using on the channel, just for like a little bit of extra engagement, just to make it look a bit neater and nicer. And just like watching your content back and looking critically at things and seeing, reading comments. I read like every comment,
Yeah.
regardless of if it tells me I'm a terrible person. I had one that told me I was ugly and shouldn't be on camera ever again, and I'm like, sick man, I'll see you in the next video. But
Why you didn't have to
it's
call me out on my comment, dude?
yeah, but it's there's I like, regardless of how negative positive things are, like I always find um grabbing every piece of feedback, and if you can look at it like without that emotional connection of
Yeah.
like, people say all kinds of crap on the internet, but it can be hard to avoid that emotional connection when people
Yes.
say they don't like your stuff. But if you can avoid that and just kind of think critically, in a lot of cases there are things that that you can gather from anything, right? Like there's always ways you can improve. If someone didn't
Yeah.
like something, you can try and find out why and look at your own stuff critically. And I often take, because I spend so much time playing something for hours on end. Like for the first 2 weeks of New World, I worked out that in the initial 2 weeks New World came out, I spent 35% of my time playing the game. And that's sleeping, eating, doing everything. So 35% of the time in 2 weeks was spent just playing the game. That doesn't include editing, writing scripts, doing all of that, just like content creation stuff. So like you would be up to like 40%, right? That's a lot of time to be sitting
Yeah.
in this chair
Oh, for
playing
sure.
New World. And I always try and have a break in between games, and I like to look at that time as a I guess a refresh to relax and kind of recharge a little bit, but also to work on what can I do differently for the next game. What's different about this game to the last one? What can I do better? What can I try and improve on myself? And just try and figure that out and just improve on little bits of pieces here and there. Like if you get a little bit better every day,
Yeah.
eventually that'll add up.
Exactly. What What is your like step by step of a video? Do you have I recorded something, or like, okay, is it start as an idea and then it's a recording, then it's a voiceover? Like, what is your step of going into a video?
Your dog is highly distracting.
Oh my
What did
goodness.
you do?
I have no Steve, what are you doing? Go lay down, dude. Go lay down. Oh my goodness.
Oh dear. Anyway, just watching her in the background. Yeah, but I guess step by step depends on the video. So for like covering a new game from scratch, the first thing I'll think about just from booting up the game is like the character creation, like whatever that is, right? Something like New World doesn't really have that. It's just like appearance, and then you kind of go into the game and
Yeah.
develop your character from there. But something like Baldur's Gate or like those Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous, a CRPG that I just covered like the last couple of months. When you hit that character creation, you've got like all these classes and attributes you got to pick and different things. Like I'll spend a lot of time on those screens trying to understand, like reading all the tooltips and stuff. Like those informations give you so much just like text-based things that no one wants to read, and I have to read all of that to try and understand it. And then I'll grab all of that information and try and turn that into a cohesive like video that anyone can understand of like, all right, if you're trying to make this kind of character, like this is what you kind of do, blah blah blah. And then after that, you just like I'll just spend time playing the game, and I'll just try and cram as much time into it as possible. And when things are happening in game that I think are interesting or that have confused me, or things that I've noticed, I always try and write that down as I'm going. So it's like, all right, so explain this concept. This is confusing. Like, I just try and like write down different things, and then that'll eventually become the basis of like my initial tips video. I usually try and get to around like a 20-ish number, and then I sort them into different types of tips, whether they're combat based or like upgrade, exploration, questing, whatever it is. Try and sort them into different sections. They become like the sections in the video.
Gotcha.
And then while I'm kind of doing all of that in game, I'm recording as well. And then I'll turn that into a script. I'll record it. At that point, I'll grab any additional footage I need, because like a lot of my videos they're not directly scripted in the way that every single word I say is written down.
Yeah.
It's usually just like prompters and pointers, where it's like, all right, I know I need to explain, what the using New World and the bow, right? I know I need to explain what poison shot does, and I've just got like the description of like its effects down, and then I'll just be like, it's an AOE ability that does blah 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 or whatever, and I'll just kind of like just riff off my notes.
I'm the same. I'm the same. With anything, I can't write I can't word for word say something, but if I leave even with the questions that I have, it's like part of a question. It's not even like a full question. I know what I mean. You know what I mean? Like I can figure it out.
Yeah. I find that if you write everything down like word for word, you'll trip yourself up, because like you'll say something differently just because it sounds better in speech than it does in written, and then you just like screw it up and you got to re-record it, or you try and rewrite it in your script, and then you waste that time. But yeah, and then so I'll grab any additional footage I need, and then if I'm editing it myself, I just grab all of that, smack it into an editor, and then massage it for 2-3 hours until it makes a cohesive video. Or if now that Nick's on board, I'll just grab all of that information and just throw it off to him and say figure it out. And
really, okay,
yeah, and then
so a lot of trust there, a lot of trust.
Yeah. No, he's like I give him a lot of I guess like all of the footage is like named to like what it goes with. So it's like, you know, if I'm
Okay.
talking about X, you know, this footage goes with that and
Yeah.
whatever. And there's a lot of freedom in there for him to kind of do whatever as well. But yeah, so I just give all of that to him, and then he sends me back a highly edited and fantastic video.
No, that's super awesome that you found an editor that is super cool like that. I feel like that's like one of the hardest things. It's like you kind of have an idea. Like I'm horrible at it. I think I need to start looking into an editor. I'm trying to learn editing, but maybe it's not my thing. You know what I mean? Maybe it's just not my thing. But it's good to know it. But I have an idea, and it's almost like drawing. Where like I got, you know, the Mona Lisa in my head, but when I pen to paper, it's stick figures every single time. And I think I'm that same way with editing right now, where I got this grand idea for a video. I go to sit down, mouse to, you know, program, and I just can't get it done. I just don't know how.
Yeah, yeah, it'll come with practice though. Like there is a lot of complexity in video editing, and it depends on what tool you're using, and it's different between the tools and whatever, and it's hard to get into, and then like regardless of if you understand how to click the options and make it look like a video, like it's still got to be engaging piece of content too. Like you know, it's tough, and I definitely spent a lot of time trying to learn how to edit and make a quality engaging video, because a lot of my content can be dry because I'm just like telling you about highly detailed information about a game, and trying to make that enjoyable to watch can sometimes be difficult, but it comes with practice. You know, when I first started getting back into it and really focusing, it could take me 6 hours to edit a video, and now it might be, you know, 2 to 3 depending on what it is. Like, you know, you find those shortcuts, and you figure out how to do things better, and you just keep reiterating on that process, and eventually you know, you just become something you can do pretty comfortably.
Yeah, I was literally, because I've been doing the podcast thing for a couple years, and I was just getting audio editing down. Right? I was just getting that down where I felt comfortable with stuff. And then I moved over to Twitch, and then we moved over to a video format podcast instead of just audio. And then I'm having to learn a whole new thing. So it's difficult. It's not as hard once you know the shortcut, you've seen it done, you can have practice with it. It's not that hard, but it's learning all the techniques that is hard for me, you know, because unless I'm better with someone helping me. Like, let's say, like, you know, hey, do this, and then we'll do this, and then do this. Then watching a video that's do that, because I'll do it, and then I'll rewind the video. All right, let's try this again. Rewind it again. So I'm that type of person, you know. It's a lot of trial and error.
Yeah. No, there's nothing wrong with that. Like, you've just got to, you know, put in the time, and you'll eventually get better at it, and it just becomes a bit of second nature as you understand the tool and stuff. Like, I think, you know, the hardest thing with learning anything is time, and actually wanting to do it is what I found. Like, you know, it might take you 10 hours to learn how to do something, and then after that, it'll take you an hour to do it.
Exactly.
But you've got to put in those initial hours. It can be tough sometimes.
Yes. So, everyone that's a returning guest knows what time it is. Around the 45 minute mark, I like to hit their guests with the rapid fire questions. You'll just give me your first thought. You don't have to think about these questions. It's not too brain inducing, all right?
All right.
Favorite color.
Quick answers
quick answers.
Can I quick answers?
Yeah, you don't have to think about it too much. Favorite color.
Teal.
Oh, I love that. Dream vacation spot.
Miami.
Best pizza topping.
Here's a longer answer, right? I love Meat Lovers pizzas, but I hate the fact that you can go to places and you buy a Meat Lovers and there is no chicken on it.
Oh, okay.
So I would say because of that, chicken, because I often add it to pizzas,
I like that.
but I don't know if that would be my favorite in general, if that makes sense.
No, I get what you're saying. No, I like that.
Okay.
Is cereal soup?
Yes.
If you had to get one person's face tattooed on you, who would it be?
One person's face. On my face, or just anywhere?
Yeah, you're on, but that would be amazing. A face on your face would be amazing. But
probably Dwayne Wade.
Okay, that's a great one. Best season of the year.
Spring.
First game you ever played?
Pokemon.
Favorite game of all time?
The Witcher 3.
Oh, another Witcher fan. How many holes does a straw have?
2.
Cat or dog?
Cat.
What villain do you empathize with the most?
My initial thought was Thanos, but
A lot of people have been saying Thanos lately.
I don't know. We'll go with Thanos then.
Okay.
That's you said initial thoughts. That's what came into my head. We'll go with that.
Favorite actor to play Batman and favorite actor you would like to see play Batman?
Christian Bale, for sure. Actor I'd like to see play Batman. I don't know actually.
Okay.
I would like to see. I like. As a weird thing, like DC love doing their dark stuff these days. Like they're really pushing this dark thing, which I really like. I would like to see a weird comical take on Batman because I feel like all the Batman actors are very similar in what they're trying to achieve.
Yes.
They're all playing that same very specific
It's almost
stereotype.
like
I'm Batman.
yeah, cookie cutter Batman at this point.
Exactly. Yeah. Right. And like that's obviously what the character is, etc., etc. But like I would like to see a very different take on him. Right.
I like that.
Get like a comedian in or someone to just play Batman and just mess it up. You know, just see what happens. I would find that really interesting.
I've been seeing a lot of like what if crossovers going into the DC thing, and I saw this one where they talked about the Riddler becoming Robin and kind of taking over the mantle as Batman later on, and I was like, that is the most interesting thing I've ever. And like, kind of getting to your point, he was kind of like a quirky Batman, kind of like, you know, not so. I'm serious. I'm Batman, and I'm serious.
Yeah.
You know? So I love that answer. I love that answer. Is cheesecake a cake or a pie?
It's a cake.
Oh, okay. Who is the best Power Ranger?
I don't know the Power Rangers. The blue one.
Okay. If you had to choose one condiment to have with every meal, every single bite, who would it be? Or what would it be?
Who would it be?
Yeah, who would it be? You know, I'm looking for a snack, you know?
Frank's hot sauce.
Really? That's such a surprising answer. Okay, I like that. Love it. And then who would it be? Who would you put on? Would you rather be the first to explore space or the ocean?
Oh, space.
Oh, really?
I am not going nowhere near the ocean.
Sound the exact opposite. The exact opposite.
No, I hate water.
Okay.
No way. Absolutely not.
If you had to choose one person to represent humanity if aliens ever came down, who would it be?
Keanu Reeves.
That's a good answer. 1 second. I think someone's at my door. I'm so sorry.
That's all right. Well, I can expand on that answer for you, Chad. Keanu Reeves, because he's extremely charismatic and would be able to liaise with the aliens for us. He's also highly fit and athletic, so he'd be able to fight for us if needed. Keanu's just like the best answer all around.
So my defense to that is I would say Dwayne The Rock Johnson.
True. I could say that.
Not only is he charismatic, funny, all that, but if the aliens ever got a little squirrely, you know, he'd take them out. So, but Keanu would too. So I like that. Would you rather have aliens be real and covered up by the government, or have no extraterrestrial life at all?
Aliens be real and covered up by the government.
Yes, same.
For sure.
Same. Xbox or PlayStation?
PC.
So I've been waiting for someone to say that. You know, I'm 16 episodes in and no one has said that yet. So like, I've been waiting for someone. Okay, that's fair. I'm still gonna say that's Xbox though with Microsoft. I'm just gonna throw it out there.
Disagree.
Which Pokemon best describes your personality?
I don't know. I'm a big fan of Lucario.
Okay.
He's one of my favorite Pokemon. I'm also a huge fan of Greninja.
Okay.
So one of those two, I would say, probably.
Robert's with me here. Squirtle Squad for life. Squirtle Squad. Would you rather live without Google or social media?
Social media.
I see a lot of people have been saying Google, and I'm like, I don't know. I can live without social media. I need my Googles.
Yeah, like for sure for me, I'm not a huge fan of social media. I understand its importance in our, you know, career choices and everything, and the world of today, but I'm
Yeah.
I'm not a huge fan of it. So
And it doesn't have to be number one. You can even give me a couple. But favorite movie of all time.
favorite movie of all time, I'll give you three.
Okay.
Uh, the Lord of the Rings, Fellowship of the Ring, the Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers, and the Lord of the Rings, Return of the King.
I like that. I like that. It's so funny. I had Crafty Gamer Lady on last week, and The Hobbit was brought up. The Lord of the Rings were brought up. Yeah, I think there's some big fans out there. Okay,
Yeah.
and then this is the most important question. I say it every week, but it's got to be talked about. I literally get hundreds of DMs about this question. It's insane.
Hmm.
I don't even have hundreds of followers, but I do get hundreds of DMs about this question. Is water wet?
No.
We got to believe her. We got to believe her, everybody. Yes. You didn't think cheesecake was a pie, but it's fine. I'll let you
It's
slide
in
on
the
that.
name. It's in
I
the name. It's
know,
not called
but
cheese pie,
but it should be. It should be called cheese
but
pie.
it's not. It's called cheesecake. It's a cake.
So I've always wondered, and you talked about like you take a little break in between games before moving on to a new one. Do you know when that break is coming? Do you know when you should take that break and move on to the next one, or is it more like my viewership isn't as much, or my impression rate, or whatever it is? Is it become more natural?
I guess it's a little bit of a mixture of both, right? You know, certain games have expiry dates in the interest levels, right? You can look at Google Trends, see how popular games are. Like New World has had a very long tail.
Yeah.
It's still very highly sought after and trending. Something like a single player game that doesn't really have a multiplayer and it's relatively short. Something like Deathloop has a short expiry in that
Makes
the kind of
sense.
trends list, so that impacts how long I will cover a game. And something like, if there's anything that I'm super interested in, and that I am really enjoying, I'll probably tailor that to be a little bit longer in terms of content as well, but just for my own enjoyment, because
Yeah.
you got to get some enjoyment out of it as
Yeah.
well. But it depends whether I take where and when I take breaks depends a lot on game releases.
Okay.
So something like using the last couple of months as an example, Pathfinder: Wrath of the Righteous, which was a CRPG that I knew I was going to cover. That came out start of September. I think it was like September 1st or something, and I knew that I was going to be covering that for the entirety of the month. I knew it would have a long tail because of the type of game that it is, and I knew I was going to make a lot of content for it. So we covered that for the entirety of September, and then New World came out September 28th or like whatever date it was, like right at the end. So no real time for a break there. Like it's just like going straight into New World, and then we're into October now, like 22nd of October here, and I haven't really thought too much about whether it's time to take a break from New World yet, because it's still as popular as it is, and I've still got tons of ideas for videos and stuff that I want to release. But after this, there isn't really a whole lot of RPGs for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
Like, there's next year's going to be ridiculous. There's
Yes.
just an insane amount, especially in February. Like, could they just
Yeah.
not put them all in the same month? But
Got a bunch of stuff coming out.
yeah, there is so many RPGs next year, and it's highly dependent on that. So I think next November we got Skyrim, probably do a little bit on that. And December I think will be a very quiet month for me, which will probably be my next major break. I expect. But I try and time like at least about a week in between each games if possible. Obviously with Pathfinder and New World there wasn't really time for that, but if there's a time to have a week off, I'll often just take a week off just to kind of recuperate and stuff, because it's a lot of work to play a game for hundreds of hours and then make the content for it and then immediately go into another one. As you kind of need that time to decompress sometimes.
Oh, 100%. I could only imagine how that can be, especially with like coming up with new ideas, feeling like, is it stale or whatever it is. And like you're saying, if you're enjoying it, I feel like it just makes it easier, when you're enjoying the content you're creating and the game you're playing. So that just makes it even easier, which I feel like New World has been that thing for a lot of people. A lot of people are enjoying it, and hopefully they do good with it. Hopefully we see more new stuff coming out, and it doesn't become stagnant, as I like to say, with a lot of games become. So, but we'll see. Is there a setup that goes into the scheduling of your videos? Do you have like certain days you want to make sure you post on, just because this day gets the most views or whatever it is?
Yeah, yes and no. Like I wouldn't say necessarily too much about views based on days. It's more timing. So like I
Hmm.
mentioned earlier, like 2 a.m. is when I'll usually schedule something to go live. I used to schedule things to go live like just when I woke up,
Sure.
because I
Yeah.
used to get anxiety for like having a video go live while I'm not actually awake.
Okay.
But I've kind of gotten past that recently. So then 2 a.m. is like the best time for it to go live based on the analytics that YouTube provides of like when most of my audience are on the platform. So that's when that goes live. But the actual days themselves, that's more based around my own schedule,
Okay.
typically. So like depends on when the times that I have. Like my first, usually I'll try and hit a video for Tuesday, which is Tuesday for me, but Monday for everyone else, and that's because I've got the weekend to prepare the content, record, do stuff, whatever, and then the Monday night get everything together and then can post it on Tuesday. Though the editor's now taking over that Tuesday video, so then I can give it to him. He does that, can post that whenever. Wednesday is going to be a stream day from now on. So like, I guess it's Tuesday for everyone else, but it's Wednesday for me. Is like going to be like the YouTube stream day. Like I'll stream on that day, and then Thursday I'll usually have a second video, depending on when in quiet times there probably won't be. It'll just be the one a week. But in times like now, that Thursday will be a second video for the initial launch of games and that
For
kind of
sure.
thing.
So I just watched a interview probably about a week ago with Mr. Beast. He sat down with blanket on their name, like Colin and Samir, I believe is what their name was. Um, and it was a very enlightening conversation, especially when it comes into the YouTube content, and how he says that like where he feels blessed is he's built a team around him that are just very honest with them, very um, I don't want to say too critical of the content, but they are willing to give it to him straight. I feel like a lot of people, especially fans or viewers, you'll ask them, oh, how was this video or how was this video? And instead of giving a real answer like, oh, hey, this from minute 10 to whatever, I felt like you dragged on a little long or whatever it was. Do you have someone in your life that's like that to give you those critical critiques that you can actually take to, and not hurt your feelings? Because sometimes it hurts my feelings.
Yeah, like I guess putting yourself out there in a way, you've got to be have a bit of a hard
Yeah,
shell.
you do.
Um, my partner's good at giving feedback,
That's awesome.
but the hard thing is that she doesn't often play the games that I'm talking about either.
Sure.
So it's hard to get that direct kind of feedback. But it's always a fresh perspective because she watches all of my content but doesn't play the game. So it's an interesting
I can see that. Yeah.
feedback when she does give information about the video. It's a different kind of perspective, and like comments on the videos, positive or negative, like I read everything, get a lot of information from there. And I think that your comment section is often a good reflection of the quality of the video, like whether it's all positive or all negative, or there's a mixture of both, what people are talking about, if they're actually conversing about the video, right?
Sure.
If I've made a build video that's talking about, this is, you do this specific way because of X and Y, and if people are like, well, maybe you could do it this way and the reasons why, and then people are kind of having a conversation about that just in their own thread, that kind of signals to me that I've made something that's interesting, that they're expanding on themselves. But if all the comments are like, nah, this video is trash, and it's like, well, video's probably trash, and they're probably right. I think there's a lot coming from there, and Nick, the editor's been good with that too. Like, he's come back to me a few times and said, you need to re-record this line because it's confusing, or your voice is shit or whatever. Like, he's done a, sorry, I didn't mean curse. I don't know if you allowed to curse on your show.
It's all good. Not family friendly here.
But cool, awesome. But yeah, like, he's been good as well as just being honest with the content, and we kind of change things up if we need to. Like if something doesn't flow right or needs to be redone, we can do that. And he's been valuable in that process because it's often like, for me, before him, I would do everything. The video would be done, thumbnail, description, SEO, it'd all be up, it'd be out, and I put it out into the world. And then you're kind of waiting those couple of days to kind of get a lot of that feedback come back. And then you go, okay, maybe that video was crap, but I
Yeah.
didn't know that at the time.
Hmm.
And he's been good for putting all of that together, giving it to him, and then we can kind of shape it if we need to a little bit, or he can kind of come back to me with things that might need to change. So that's been helpful to get some feedback before the video is out. In that regard.
Have you noticed that? Because it's also something I noticed or listened to in the podcast was um, sometimes a thumbnail or a title just didn't grab someone that you thought it was. Have you ever changed your thumbnail and you just seen immediately that it just grabs someone's attention?
Yeah, absolutely. I do it a lot. I
Okay.
think updating thumbnails and titles and stuff is something that you should always be considerate of and looking at. Probably the first thing that I look at when a video goes live is not necessarily the views; it's the
Yeah,
impression
exactly.
click-through
That's
rate.
what I've heard to look at.
Yeah. So like about a 5 is an average in a lot of regards. Like if you're at the start of a video, you want to be much higher because the video's just gone live.
Yeah.
Usually your audience will be clicking on it more, so your impression click-through rate will be higher. But then when it averages out over time, you kind of want to be above that 5 mark.
Okay.
And I dig into the advanced stats of that to look at where those impressions are coming from, whether it's the YouTube search and the specific impressions from YouTube search versus from like the recommended feed. When you're looking at a video on the right hand side, we got like the recommended videos down there, like you can see that compared to that. And then if something's not performing well, like from the impressions, I'll kind of look at it critically and think, maybe I can change the thumbnail, maybe I'll change the title, adjust it a little bit, and then I'll leave it for a day, and then go back in and look at that specific day compared to the first day or whatever day it was, and just see if it's improved or changed, and then make a decision from there. So there's nothing wrong with changing a thumbnail or a title or whatever. And realistically, no one's going to know.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
no one really is going to notice.
Yeah.
Like the amount of times I have changed thumbnails or titles, I've never received a comment to be like, you changed the thumbnail.
I caught
you
ya."
changed the title. How could you? Yeah, like no one cares. And most of the people that have already clicked on the video
Aren't watching it.
they're not going to click on
Yeah.
it. Exactly. And if they do, even though you might have changed it slightly, they're still going to know it's the same thing.
Yeah.
Because fundamentally, the video hasn't changed. Like it's still going to be the same video.
Yeah.
It's just you might have thought the thumbnail needed to be pop more or whatever it was. And like I've had plenty of instances where the one that I can think of the most is like I made a video on The Witcher 2, and like the video, I can't remember what the original title was, and I think the title right now is Why You Should Play The Witcher 2. Whatever the title was initially, it might have been something very similar. You need to play The Witcher 2, whatever it was. And the thumbnail was very different to what it is now. It was like a bit more of a you could see almost all of Geralt, and it was just like some text on the side, and I changed it to fit with like my style at the time and be much more of a close-up of Geralt, put some more pop into the colors and stuff. And originally the video did terrible, like it plummeted through the impressions, did like nothing. It was I guess I don't want to say a failure because I don't think anything's a failure, but
Sure.
like it failed in terms of like at the time what I would have expected,
Yeah.
video performance wise. And then it was about a week after, and I changed all of that stuff. Left it for ages, didn't think about it, and then now the video is, I think it's got like 10,000 views or something, which for the time that I'd put that video out, getting above 1,000 would have been like a highly successful video. But just because like making those changes and trying to I thought the video was really good, it just like wasn't getting the clicks that it deserved,
Sure.
I thought, and so making those changes kind of pushed it into the way, and it still gets comments to this day, considering how poorly it did initially. It's really interesting. You can often, I guess, save things just by looking at it critically and updating things slightly.
No, I think that's a very smart way to approach it, especially your thumbnails, and like when you scroll down, it's so uniform. Even when you switch games, I feel like your thumbnails are very similar. It's all very uniform. Like you scroll through mine, everything's just, it's all a little different, right? So like I've noticed that from other people's YouTube. I'm like, okay, I see that. I see where you need that uniformity, especially like it's almost like your own tag as well, and it's like when people are scrolling through, they'll start to remember that color scheme or whatever it may be, that font or whatever, which I think is super interesting. And what has been like, because I definitely think your YouTube is successful, and I say that in the sense of subscribers to view count, right? I know you have 10,000 subscribers, somewhere around there, but your views on some of these videos are crazy. Like it's two, three, four, five times the amount of subscribers you have. Is that something that's always been a thing? Because when I look at other people's YouTubes, I don't see that. It's usually, their views are a tenth sometimes of what their subscriber count actually is.
Yeah, interesting question. In a like for me, I think I don't think it's something. It's a big secret. Like I'm not doing anything that's causing this necessarily to occur. It's not like I've ticked some secret option in Google that's like
Who are you
making
paying?
these videos get. Yeah, exactly. It's the nature of the content that I make because I make highly searchable videos. And that translates to views, like directly on video. So you'll see my views will fluctuate significantly, right? Like especially on tips, or if I hit a tips video, if I get a review code for a game and I have a tips video that comes out on day one of release of the game, like that video is going to soar in
Okay.
view counts because there's tons of people searching for tips, and you get high in that search engine because there's obviously heaps of people making tips videos. If I get mine out first and it gets clicked on very quickly and Google says, all right, this is going to go right at the top, everyone keeps clicking on that video, its view count's going to go nuts. But that doesn't necessarily translate to and like that doesn't necessarily translate to subscribers in a lot of ways. It might be, you might just be interested in that game and you just want to watch this one video, right? You watch that video, you've got what you wanted from me, and you leave. And that's fine. Like there's plenty and tons of people that are like that. And like I think that's why it fluctuates so much. Whereas a lot of people who are making content that isn't as highly searchable, that aren't like focusing so much on, I wouldn't say like my content's directly focusing on clicks, trying to get clicks or anything. Like I avoid all of that clickbait stuff because I think it's ridiculous. But just the content that I make is like is searchable, and that's why it gets so many views. Whereas if you are like doing a let's play channel or you're doing like a podcast like yourself, it's not as searchable because like no one's really coming to Google or to YouTube to search for a specific podcast.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Like,
hey,
people might be looking for.
I might get someone looking for what to do with the dash of salt and a meal or something.
Exactly, yeah.
Hopefully that'll come up.
Yeah, it might come up. But yeah, it's just that searchability. You get exposed to a lot of more faces because of just the impressions of the content that I make, and then they just translate to views. But it doesn't necessarily translate to subscribers.
Yeah.
A metric that I often pay attention to more than that initial subscriber count is if you go into your YouTube analytics, there's a returning viewers section when you look at your audience, and that metric I think is more important than your subscribers, because what that tells me is that those people are the ones that are actually coming back regardless of if they're subscribed or not. You might have millions of subscribers but only 20 returning viewers. That means you're only getting like 20 views on your videos. So my returning viewers metric last time I looked is at 33,000. And my subscribers are at 10,000.
Wow,
so
that's incredible.
That's across, so that's across everything. So like not for a specific time period. That's just like the last like 90 days or whatever. And like that tells me that regardless of whether they're clicking the subscriber button, they're still coming back to look at that same kind of content, because like you might be looking for tips for a video for a game, and then you might be looking for X in that same game, and you see that. You recognize, the way that I see it is you recognize the thumbnail or the title, whatever the name, the branding that I have, and you click that next video, and regardless of whether you subscribed or not, you're still kind of in that ecosystem of my content.
No, that's honestly super incredible. I would never have guessed that you could even get numbers like that from not having people subscribe. And I think that a credit to a little bit of YouTube, because there's been times where like I'll watch someone's video every day, and I didn't even realize I wasn't subscribed to them. That was just because YouTube just threw it up there on my recommended videos or whatever. And like the first three or whatever. And in particular, this YouTuber named Kenny Beecham does like 2K videos, stuff like that. And like, I think I watched him for like 6 months, almost every day. And I didn't realize I wasn't subscribed. So I think that's, to that point, people can think they are, but actually, are not, but that's so incredible. It's so nice to see that, that. So it's hard for someone who doesn't have a following anywhere else to just start going at it and building it all up at once. Your Twitch, your YouTube, your social medias and everything. You're just starting anew, and sometimes you feel like you get lost in everything, right? Like, oh, people are never gonna see me and stuff like that. And I thought that with YouTube, and then like 3 weeks after I posted a Hitman video, it just all of a sudden in that day it got over 1,000 views. You know, and like I was like, oh, so YouTube will promote something eventually. You just gotta, you know, be there and everything like that. And then I would notice my I forget what it's called, watch time. You know, what would my watch time in
Mhm.
that video be? And I realized why I didn't get as many returning people, because I even rewatched that. I think my watch time was like 2 minutes, 2 minutes 25 seconds for that. And I watched that 2 minutes, and I'm like, my setup is too long. Like my setup to the actual what we're doing is too long. You know, if it's me talking or if it's me being like, "Hey, today we're playing this game" or whatever, is that something you've noticed as well? Like watching your watch time or whatever it may be to cut out the fat of certain videos.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that I've always tried to do before I even figured out kind of my process was not really having much of an intro.
Okay.
I battled a lot with getting to the intro that I've stuck with, which is it's about 25-ish seconds is my entire intro, where I start the video. It's usually gameplay. I'll usually explain what the video is about. You'll see my intro, then you'll see me. I will say hi, click the subscribe button, or I'll promote
I
something if
saw,
there's a sponsor, whatever it is.
I saw the
Um,
one where you're like, "There's no sponsor today." Like, there's just,
yeah.
I love
Yeah,
that.
so I'll just try and do something like that, right? Like if I haven't got anything, you just try and do something funny, and then just go straight into the video from there. And I try and keep that to under 30 seconds,
Okay, that's
as quick
fair.
as
Yeah.
possible. And like a lot of thing that I found just from a viewer on YouTube, especially from channels similar to me making similar content, is that their intros are like 2 minutes long,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like a 10-minute video, and
Yeah.
you've got nothing. And especially for tips, you might have 5 tips for X and Y, right? You got a 2-minute intro, and then you're only giving someone 5 tips. And that's a 10 minutes where there's like zero value
Mm-hmm.
in total. You've given them like nothing. And so what I try and do is keep that intro as short and precise as possible,
Okay.
and then get straight into the content and cram as much into that as possible. Like, you know, all of my tips videos are like 20, 25, whatever, like however many. I try and put as much in there as possible. And I find that the faster that you can context switch while keeping with the same whatever the video topic is, the higher that retention will be throughout the video, the watch time.
Yeah.
And then that translates to YouTube realizing that, you know, the YouTube pays a lot of attention to the engagement and the watch time, especially if people are
Yes.
like clicking on, you know, like your chapters and stuff. Like I always have chapters in my videos. It's very important for YouTube to see those that feedback from the viewer. That'll then translate into impressions, which hopefully, if your thumbnail and title and stuff are good enough, it'll then translate into clicks, and then it just becomes a cycle, and then that's how you get your, you know, you move your way up the view count basically.
Mm-hmm.
And like looking at retention stats is something that like
Retention. That's what it was.
yeah, yeah. So you can go into you can go into specific videos, look at retention, or you can just look at it across the board for all of your videos. And you can see kind of where people are dipping, like how long
Yeah.
they're surviving through the
Mm-hmm.
video, where they're leaving, why they're leaving, because you can look at that part of the video and see like what's causing that to
Mm-hmm.
happen. And it could even be like sometimes even it could even just be you've said a particular word or phrase, right? Like if you something to avoid from my perspective is that I found a while in that saying like something like in my opinion or personally something, right? Like even if I'm giving a build, which is technically the entire video is a personal
Yeah.
opinion, right? But if you say in my opinion or like personally whatever, like that will sometimes cause a dip in retention.
Okay.
People will leave because they don't think it's like legit. It's in your opinion
Oh,
and
for sure.
like
Yeah.
who
Yeah.
are you?
Yeah.
They don't care, right? But so if you cut that out and just say, well, this is how it works, and you know, explain why without saying in my opinion, just explain how it works, right? Like it prevents that little, I guess the viewer like thinking that you're not like credible,
Sure.
which is,
Yeah.
you know, like a thing. Like it's you just got to find those things, right? Like find what it is, the reasons why, and you know, there's all sorts of things you can do to try and increase your metrics, like transitions and sounds
Yeah.
and whatever. And just depends on what style of content you have, and just try and cram as much just content as possible into the tiniest amount of time, right? Try and keep the view count, not view, sorry, like the length of the video low, while keeping the content high throughout. Much as content as possible and short as possible, and then that'll then translate into, you know, watch time. It's the same as like if you're writing a story or, you know, you're doing anything, you try and trim out as much of like the fat as possible and just have the key things you need to be in there, and then it'll do better for it.
No, I love that. That is very interesting, Robert. Like, I agree. I going back through my retention through videos. I've only recently started, and I say recently, I mean like this week. Like really, I think more YouTube was more like a second thing to me, and Twitch was number one, and I think I've now flopped them. Where like I still love streaming. I'm gonna still stream my normal schedule, but now it's like every free time I get, instead of thinking about what game to stream or whatever like that, it's gonna be, oh, we're editing this or we're recording this, or like it's just gonna go more into the YouTube side of things. So that's looking at the retention. It made me realize once again that my setup's too long. Even in, because like me, I'm more of like no one's watching me for my opinions on things. No one's gonna click for my amazing gameplay. But if you want to have a good time, you want to laugh through some things, I think this is the gameplay for it. But I've noticed that the setup for the joke was too long to get to the punchline. You know what I mean? Like if it was a Dead by Daylight video, I showed me doing or walking around the spooky moments too long till me dying. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
I definitely realized I need to cut some of that out. To people just want to see me die. Or people just want to see the funny moment, or people just want to that. So like the whole setup, I've realized it is important, not as important as I thought.
Yeah, for sure. You gotta find that balance, right? Like you can't just have the joke. You've got to have the
Yeah,
setup
exactly.
and the punchline and whatever. But there's always trying to find the balance, and it's always going to change. And it's just part of that learning experience. I think like find what works. Like post a video, look at your retention, see what's changed, see what's good. Figure it out from there. And you should flaunt that dog around for views as well. Make sure that your dog's in all your videos, especially at the first 10 seconds, so that people stay for
I was just
longer.
about to say, is that why you have a cat in your video, just so you can get the extra viewer, or in your photo?
Exactly. No, it's I was trying to take a photo for. I think that was for. I think I got a haircut or whatever, and she was just like sitting on my desk, and I thought it'd be good to just put her head in the photo. So
Listen, he's already working for me with Tinder. It's already caught me a couple
Nice.
new girls that way. My impression rate on Tinder is way better than on YouTube. So, so what goes into your thumbnails? Not just the color scheme. You talk about having a branding for your thumbnails. Is there certain things you want to make sure you do? I've definitely heard like like more than 3 images people get lost, or more than 3 things in a thumbnail, and it's like they just don't see it. Have you seen that as well through your thumbnails and stuff?
Yeah, absolutely. And I stick to a very similar methodology to that.
Okay.
A lot of my thumbnails are very bright. I have like a backdrop, and then like I put like a image of a person or whatever I'm talking about on the right side, which is big and bold and whatever. And then behind that, I usually have like a grading of my color scheme, the teal and pink, to try and block out the background. For partly because of that reason, because people only look at a couple of things, and then text on the left side, and then that's always in the same font. It's always got the same kind of like drop shadow and kind of elements to it. But finding what works is like, I don't like, give me 6 months, I'm probably going to change the style again,
Sure.
right? If you look at the history on my channel, I've played around with many different styles, and trying to find what works. And what I've got now is probably the highest impression rate of my thumbnails that I've got, and that's why I've kind of stuck with it for a while. I've made some minor tweaks to it, like putting a little border around it or whatever, but it's why I've kind of stuck with this, because it's people know it's my videos, and it does well in terms of impressions, because it's got a big bold thing and then a little bit of text and stuff. And I think thumbnails are such a hard thing to nail down, because like you'll see people that will just have like just horrendous thumbnails. Like it could just be a screenshot from a game with like a little bit of text on it or whatever. But like they'll have like ridiculous, but like they'll do well because they've got like an inbuilt audience on YouTube already. And like they might have had that style from like 12 years ago when like YouTube was so small.
Yeah.
And now they're just like massive on the platform. People click their videos anyway. Video Game Donkey is a good example of that. His thumbnails are usually just like like realistically, there's no consistency, and they're kind of like horrendous. But like his videos get millions of views because he has such an inbuilt audience, and he's such a named figure.
Yeah.
There's always exceptions to the rule, but like you've got to find what works for you, and find like a color scheme and just those elements that will increase your impressions while helping people understand that it's your video, right? Like that you're the one that has made it. If you can create that connection in people's minds that it's, they can look at that thumbnail and immediately go, that's NorZZa, or that's
Yeah.
whoever, right? Like that's important to me anyway. I think that's
No,
important because
it definitely
it
is.
helps that. Yeah. Like my thumbnails are super bright, for a reason as well. Like I love the color scheme that I have. It's the Miami Vice colors, the pink and teal, which is where that comes from, if anyone's curious. But color, like the reasons the thumbnails and everything is so bright is because a lot of people that make content like me, they have a very dark style of
Yeah,
thumbnails.
true, true.
They often they're not super bright. There's a lot of dull colors. And a lot of like just white text with like maybe one of the words is like slightly brighter than the others or something.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's very similar stuff. So I always try and keep my thumbnails super bright to draw that attention in, and then just try and make them as high quality as I possibly can without spending hours trying to make a thumbnail. And
Sure.
yeah,
I
kind of
think
go from there.
I think that's part of it. One is the program I was using for a while for my thumbnails, mainly because I was slowly upgrading computer stuff. My one computer wasn't really doing well. I started upgrading the second computer. Um, and looking at my thumbnails, I realized the ones I was making on Canva um, weren't as good as other people's thumbnails that I knew were using like Adobe or whatever, And I was like, okay, well, maybe it is just the program that I'm using. So I switched up the program, not to Adobe, to something else. And I'm like, oh, well, this is even worse than what I was using before, just the quality of everything.
So what software do you use for your
I'm
webcams,
back
your
to
thumbnails?
I'm back to Canva.
Okay.
Mainly just because I have it on my PC and I could do some things on my phone as well, and it not
Yep.
mess with me too much.
Yep. Yeah, fair enough. I use GIMP, which is a free tool. It's all my thumbnails are made in GIMP. I have like a template that I use, so the template has the different elements like the border, the that transparent background, and then I just have like the text with the font, and it just says like text here, whatever. And then I always start from that template, and then I edit it from there, so that my thumbnails always have that basic theme. And like I think regardless of like what tool you use, it really comes down to your understanding of the tool. Like your
Yes.
tool, I don't know it, but it might be significantly more advanced than GIMP.
Yeah.
And you might be able to like do tons of really cool shit in there. But if you don't know how to do that
Yeah.
stuff, like it doesn't really matter. It's the same with editing software. It's the same with any software, really. If you don't know how to do it, it doesn't matter what.
Exactly.
People can say, "Oh, Adobe Premiere is the best video editor." Well, if you don't know how to use it, then well, it's not for you, is it? Like
100%.
it might be the best editing software, but you don't know how to use it. You got to learn that process and figure out how to do stuff. And that's part of the process. I think is anyone can use any software and it can look amazing. It's just it's your understanding of that software. I think is what's important.
Yeah, I was really good at editing audio on my phone. Like I was just really good at it
Yeah.
just because I had no knowledge of computers like that. Like, and when I say no knowledge, I mean that. Like we had a
Yeah.
computer in our house growing up, but it was slow. So I never used it. And then it would be the one where you turn on and then it's like it's riddled with viruses and stuff. So you're like, oh, let's put this in the corner and never talk about it, you know? So
Yeah, fair enough.
these have been my first computers ever, like I've never really had a computer like that. So I'm just now getting into everything. I'm just now, learning all the specifics of gaming type stuff. And then when it comes into video editing, that took a little while too. Like I once again started on my phone just because it was easier and I knew programs on my phone, to now I'm finally over to DaVinci and using that just because, one, free, and two, I can actually understand it better than some of the other ones.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, that understanding is really key. I think
What up, Avenged?
for any software and whatever. Yep.
So, I'm always curious on where, outside of thumbnail branding, where people's names came from, where people branding came from. Where did NorZZa originate?
NorZZa came from the World of Warcraft name generator.
Oh,
I don't know exactly what it was. It wasn't NorZZa, but it was something very similar. That was the first like online game where I was like, I need like an actual like alias, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like when I first started playing World of Warcraft and hit that name generator for however long. And it was, I guess it was in those days where the name generator wasn't just like a bunch of letters and numbers like smashed together because now, now there's so many accounts
Yeah.
out there. There's not much left, but it was, and I can't remember what it was. It was something similar. Could have just been NorZZa without the R or whatever it was. And I liked it, and I like to capitalize the N, and then I don't like the way that lowercase z's look, and so then I capitalize them, and then that's how we kind of got with NorZZa. And now there's people that I would consider like some of my best friends that call me NorZZa. They don't call me by my real name. It's I'm more known to be NorZZa than yeah Jordan, which is my
Yeah.
name.
I'm
And so
Salt.
yeah, yeah,
Like that's a real life nickname before it was a Twitch nickname, you
oh
know.
yeah,
So like
yep,
that, I'm Salt or Salty or whatever to real life and Twitch friends. So I think it's, it's just fitting.
yeah.
So what I love the whole design of everything, especially, you say you've kind of gravitated towards the Miami Vice feel. Was that just because you were a Miami fan, or you were a fan of Miami? How did that all originate? What was the chicken? What was the egg?
Probably the color scheme came from Miami Vice because I am a fan of the Miami Heat. When I was looking at trying to figure out what my branding was really going to be, I knew that I wanted to have a very clear image of what I was. Like if you looked at my colors or you looked at my name, whatever it is, my logo, that you would know whose it is and that it belongs to someone. I wanted to have a very clear uh, image of what that was. And so that's kind of where um, I spent time trying to figure out what it was going to be, and I
Mm-hmm.
didn't really know, and played around with a lot of different kind of colors and yeah, like the Miami Vice colors. Like I think I own like I don't know, 5, 6, 7, 8 Miami Vice jerseys
That's
from all
amazing.
the different. They did like black ones, white
Mm-hmm.
ones. They did the colored ones. They did all of them, and so that's kind of where I got the idea for the colors and was like, oh yeah, and it's very then it's very different to a lot of people that make content similar to me, and then that just kind of expanded from there. And Matt Ferguson on Twitter, Fergie21, I think
Mm-hmm.
is his Twitter. He made my current logo, the NZZ, um, and and yeah, like that's where the kind of colors came from, and the logo from him, and yeah, it's just kind of expanded from there.
That's awesome. I don't know. I feel like I have a friend who's, into that, right? Like just into creating logos, creating, that's just their thing. It comes natural to them. Where for me, I like it's not as natural for me. I have to really think about it, and then like I'll see it, I'm like, oh, that's smart, I'll add some of that, or like see some of that and add it into there, where I think I'm about to move on to my third type of rebranding per se. I'm just waiting for everything to come in. But I started as like
Yep.
Saltonius Daltonius, which is just, I love the Saltonius. Dalton is my name, so I kind of just went into that a little bit more. Plus, it reminded me of like Gladiator when he's like takes off his helmet and is like, my name is Maximilian, but and goes into his long
Yeah. Yeah.
name.
Yep. Yep.
So that
Yep.
was my idea behind it, but no one else saw that as much as that. And then going into your searchability and stuff, Saltonius
Mm.
Daltonius, such a long name, a lot of different letters, a lot of vowels you might mess up. So I was like, Saltonius. It's much easier to just stick with that. Have you gone
Yeah.
through the stages of rebranding, or have you found what you liked and you just stuck with it?
I've definitely rebranded a lot. I've always been NorZZa. Initially, the YouTube was NorZZa Gaming, and then I just dropped the gaming because there's no real point in having it there.
Sure.
So it just became NorZZa, and I've the colors have always been the same. I've had a couple of different logo variations. The one that I have now, which Matt Ferguson made, like I knew what I wanted. I knew I wanted the NZZ,
Mm-hmm.
and so I kind of just gave him that and the colors, and just said, away you go. And but there's yeah, I've been like tinkering, I would say, more than complete rebrands because I've always stuck with the
That's a
same
good word
colors and
for
the
it.
same
Yeah.
general themes, and I've always like a minimalistic style, so I don't want to overdo a lot of different like graphics, especially on streams and stuff. I've always stuck with a very like minimal style, not having too much on the stream itself, and keeping things like small, and same with the videos, like, you know, trying to keep things as minimalistic as possible. Like that's kind of my general theme, I suppose. So yeah, tinkering more than complete reburns.
I, I I think tweaks are fair to have. Sometimes you, once again, going back into the complacency of something, you may not know that something can be better, you know, and I
Yep.
don't think it's a bad thing to change stuff because sometimes it's better. Sometimes it's worse. Sometimes it wasn't a good idea, but sometimes it's better, you know, and, you know,
Yeah.
it's good to go after those moments because it helps. You know, I'm all about growth and progressing and never staying stagnant. Once again, the stagnant word.
Yep.
Word of the
Yeah, for
day.
sure. And you know, if it's worse, you can just change it back or change it to
Yeah.
something else. Like, you know, that's all part of the process. And especially if it's an iterative thing, you know, no one's really in the long run gonna care or notice that you changed something slightly, it didn't work out, you changed it back, or you changed it to something else. Like, you know, there's always a good time to change things and play around. And just like
Just,
your dog in the
this
background
dude
there,
is
he's having a great time.
he's going crazy right now. um, goodness, I had a question. Um, oh yeah, so with the growth of everything, and you, I think it's good to have a goal for stuff. Do you have that next big goal you want to hit?
Um, I don't know. Goal setting's an interesting thing, right? Like, wow, you took the toy off him. You
Just a squeaky
terrible
one.
dog
Just a
parent.
squeaky one.
Uh, goal setting's a funny thing. Like, I'm not the kind of person that thinks that, uh, like, you know, setting a subscriber count as
Sure,
like a
sure, sure,
goal
sure.
or anything like that. Like, I don't think that it's healthy because a lot of it you can't control, and a lot of
Yeah, I
like
like that.
those, especially the things in content creation, you can't control a lot of it. Like, I can make a video and be like, hell yeah, like this video is great. You know, I want this video to get 10,000 views, whatever, right? And it just might not happen because of whatever reason. Like, it might
Mm-hmm.
not be something you've done wrong. It's just the video topic might not be that good, whatever. Like, it just doesn't happen for everything. Same with, you know, subscriber counts or viewer counts or whatever. Like, there's so much external factors that you can't control. I think it's unhealthy to set goals around that kind of thing. I've always just tried to set goals with things that I can control. So, you know, for me, it would be when I was, you know, trying to get really serious about the YouTube, was posting a video every week, regardless of if I was staying up till 2 a.m. to make it. Trying to hit that schedule. Video could be terrible, video could be great, whatever. Video, I did it. That was the goal. And just kind of growing from there. And I don't know, like my next big goal, to answer your question, I don't really have one. You know, I would like to um, expand my writing quality, and really develop that side. You know, I'm studying professional editing and writing and media and communications at the moment. That's something that's really important to me. So, like, I guess you could say that's a goal, but nothing really serious, right? Like, you look at my Deathloop review that I did. You know, I spent a lot of time on the writing aspect of that, and really trying to get into that side. And the video wasn't one of my most popular videos or whatever, but like it's one of the videos that I'm most proud of
Sure.
because I spent a lot of time onto
That's
that
just
side of
as
things. And I
important.
think that, yeah, and I think that the writing is probably the main thing that I want to focus on, and doing more, which is going to come from like the members on the channel. I'm going to have a video that comes out once a month, which will be different to the rest of my content, which is going to be specifically for members, which is going to use a lot of that writing skill that I'm trying to develop. And so yeah, like that's probably roughly a goal, but I wouldn't say I've, you know, now that I've hit 10,000, it's not let's get 100,000
Yeah.
or let's do whatever. Like it's
Oh,
more
dude, get
just, you
it.
know, yeah. It's more just stay consistent, work on things that like I know I can improve on. I also want to learn Adobe Premiere because I currently
Yeah.
use Cyberlink Power Director as my editor, and because my editor Nick, he uses Adobe, just so that we can both match up our styles. So you can't tell who's edited the video. I need to learn Premiere, so like that's a personal thing that
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to work on, probably over the next few months. But yeah, nothing really specific. I try to set achievable goals that are more based around my own, myself rather than anything else, and try to stick to that.
No, I love that. Hey, life goals can be just as important as content creation goals and everything like that, you know, and they can kind
Yeah.
of play hand in hand with one another, you know, especially with like mental health, everything like that. So I'm also a person who thinks that as people, we grow from our failures as much as we do as our successes, and we sometimes learn more from those as well, right? What's been your biggest failure that has actually helped you grow through all this content creation?
Mm. Um, I mean, I guess we'll see what comes out of this current situation with my
Mm.
account being down because of various reasons with YouTube. Like, that hack has really played a lot on my mental health, and I obviously did all the right things, 2FA, passwords, whatever, and it just did happen anyway.
Mm-hmm.
Things happen. I would consider that. I guess we'll see what happens in a week. Hopefully everything's back to normal. That's probably been one of, like, if you're talking about biggest failures, that absolutely, because like right now you search my channel, it doesn't
Yeah.
exist. So like that's kind of struggling considering of the amount of hours and stuff I've
Yeah.
put into the channel and everything around it. But outside of that, just in terms of the actual content,
Bunker down.
itself, I
We
would
are
say,
now
like,
being raided.
biggest failure is probably, I guess, like in my own ability to, if you want to do that raid first, that's fine. No, yeah, it's probably my own like ability to uh, understand when I was starting to grow and really figure out what I was doing, was really to look at myself critically and to spend time. I'm very self-reflective now, and I think I'm very self-aware in everything that I do, and
Yeah.
and I try and like grab as much feedback from everything as possible, and really use that to push myself further. Whereas initially I was just kind of like following whatever. I wasn't really doing
Yeah.
anything specific. I was just kind of like treading water, and like it took me too long to sit down, figure out what I was trying to do, and then gather and use all of the feedback and stuff that's coming through, and then improve everything, and then kind of go through. Like, I think if I spent more time in those initial days and weeks, months, really looking critically about what I was trying to do
Yeah.
rather than just do, I think I would have got further quicker, I guess.
I can see that. Hindsight's 2020, obviously, so it's one of those things where like you can look at stuff you did or didn't do, and you're like, oh, I should have done that or shouldn't have done this, but you can only learn from what you've done and use that knowledge to move forward from there, right? So, but Blake, appreciate the raid. Thank you, Alex, for jumping in here, and thank you, Kiggy429 Gaming, for the follow and just for that raid. I'll just destroy myself during this interview.
Salt is a way of life.
So everyone sees it's not.
Obviously, the environment down here is all salt. The ceiling is salt, the floor is
Well, it's
salt,
hot.
the walls are salt, and to an extent, the air is salt.
Yeah, the rest of the podcast will be fun.
Breathe that in, and you can taste the salt.
Woo! So I know you said you're part time right now, and you're kind of on like a little break. How's that? And with the partner, how is that juggle of being a good significant other, a good employee, and also trying to put out good content?
Yeah, I mean, the other element to that as well is that I'm currently studying. Like, I'm at uni
Yeah,
as well,
true.
For editing and writing and media and comms. But I guess it's difficult. Like, I don't think I wouldn't say like I have the balance right. I don't know if there is a right balance. I don't think there's a way that you can say like, how do you balance everything? Well, you just kind of figure it out, and I don't think there's an answer to the question in general. You just have to like prioritize things as they come and try and work out what the most important thing at any time is to do, and just kind of balance around that. The part-time work is probably the thing that goes most out the door. Like, I'm not working at the moment. Like, if I need to, like, my boss is fine with me just taking time because it's not a priority for
Yeah,
me.
sure.
So if I ever need that time, like, I will just take leave and just not do that. It gives me an extra 2 days to do stuff. And yeah, it's difficult. Like, I don't think there's an answer to balancing things. I think it's tough. There's no way to say, I just spend all of this time doing whatever. But for me, like, I just find whatever is the most important thing to do at any given time and do that. And then I also schedule a lot of things in like my calendar. So if
Yes.
I've got assignments due that I have to work on, or things that are, like this, for example, like I've got that in my calendar to know I've got to be here at this time. I do that for things I've got to work on. I try and have a plan for each day. If I wake up in the morning, it's like, all right, I've got to do these 2-3 things, whatever it may be, every day, and just kind of make sure that I knock that off in that day is just kind of like a small goal to set to do those
Yeah.
specific things. and I just take one day at a time. Like you look at things holistically. Like you think, like I've got uni, I've got all these videos to do. Like you got the partner, you got work, you got blah blah. If you look at things like as a whole, it can be very stressful. And I think if you're just
Yes.
trying to take little things at a time, and you can't do everything all in one day. It's like I can't make 25 videos for the next month and graduate from uni from a 4-year course in a week, right? That's just
Yeah.
not going to happen, or even a day, right? You just do what you got to do at the time and just think about those critical things that, those piecemeal little things that you have to focus on, and then those will just snowball into the bigger things.
Yeah, exactly. No, I love that take on everything, because there is no true and tried way to juggle everything and do it all. But I will say, it seems when you have a support system around you, it becomes a little bit easier. So
Yeah,
everyone who has that support system, hold on to them. They're important in your life, like you said, for good mental health and stuff like that. We all get down on stuff, especially in content creation. So it's nice to have those people to take that burden off of you sometimes.
definitely.
Who have been some of your biggest, you say you look at other channels. Who have been some of your biggest influences into content creation? Who do you look at to, like I said, I look at co-op comedy of what not to do. So who are some other people that you watch that have been influential to you?
Yeah, I guess Fextra Life have been seeing some of the stuff that they do. Like I enjoy the content that they make, and that's why I kind of started to make builds and stuff as well, because it's very similar to some of the stuff that they do. I don't think there's anyone directly. A big influence is just from YouTube and content and stuff in general. Mr. Matty Plays, he started as a Fallout YouTuber, and now he just kind of talks a lot about. He's really expanded into doing other stuff, but like he was a big influence for me in the early days of why I got into YouTube and wanted to do stuff in that space. The Lone Vault Wanderer was someone that I was following around that time as well. Like there isn't, yeah, it's hard, right? Like I don't think there's anyone directly that I follow or have influenced the kind of content that I directly make, but as just in terms of getting into content creation, then yeah, they're probably the two biggest influences, I would say.
Okay, that's awesome. There's the OGs, people that pretty much everybody watch, and then there's the people that, give me my inspiration now. And I don't think it's like any content in particular that I watch for influence or whatever. It's more so the personalities, and it's like, if anything, it's almost like, when you're hanging out with your buddy that, when you two are together, you guys just joke more, you laugh more and stuff like that. I feel like watching those certain type of people gives me more inspiration to be that, and like,
Yeah.
working 9 hours plus a day, you get home, and sometimes not everyone knows what to do, but I'm a manager. I own a company, or a part owner of a company. So I have to be a guy that's in charge, and hey, you do this, you do this, you do this, so after a long day of that, it's almost hard to like shut that off sometimes and just be who I really am, which is a goofy, guy. I don't take anything too seriously outside of work. I, just like to chat, have fun, and, hopefully good things happen.
Yeah, for sure.
What are some of the best resources, programs, or anything like that have helped you along the way of content creation? I think for many of us that are getting into it's hard to find the right one that works for us. And like you said, sometimes you just don't know them. So what are some good ones that have helped you out throughout the way, this journey?
Yeah, okay. So I think I touched on it a little bit before, but I think programs or like software is very subjective.
That's true.
You can use completely different tools and find the exact same results. It's really about your knowledge of the tool, not so much as just like, using this tool will make you the best whatever,
Yeah.
like the best video editor, the best thumbnail maker.
Dang it.
It's really about your understanding of of the tool itself. But personally, I use GIMP for my photo editing, or like like for thumbnails, that kind of thing. I also use, Cyberlink Power Director is the video editor that I use. That's just what I started using when I first started, and like I know it so well now that I
Yeah.
can just kind of make a video with my eyes closed. So that's why I still use it today. Do want to learn Adobe Premiere, like I mentioned, like that's going to come kind of from that. And outside of that, like from the YouTube side, I use vidIQ, which is a extension for YouTube, which gives you just like some more analytics and stuff on the side that you can really drill down into. I find that that's a valuable tool just for specifically for the YouTube side. And then other than that, like probably the most important thing is analytics themselves. The actual like YouTube analytics. Twitch has terrible analytics. Never look at Twitch
Yeah,
analytics.
exactly.
They're ridiculous. But YouTube itself, they actually spend tons of their time working on their analytics, and there is so much information in there, and it's difficult to understand it at first because it's so complex, and then also trying to understand how you translate it into something, right? Like you might be we were talking about watch times and retention before. Like you look at that metric and go, cool, what does it tell me? And trying to figure out what that is telling you is something that's hard to do as well. But really understanding your analytics, why things are working, why things aren't, like where things come from, and clicking that little advanced mode tab at the top and really drilling down into stuff is like something that I've felt is really valuable to get an understanding of the platform and why things work and why things don't, and just like why general videos perform better or worse, and just like comparing them has been valuable to me. And that's probably the main things that I've used. Like there's nothing really complex or anything. It's just looking at my analytics, vidIQ to give me a little bit more analytics and some shortcuts for YouTube. And yeah, really just edit it and thumbnail and chuck it together.
So you also don't know the Pandora box of programming?
No.
Oh, dang it. Dang. I was really hoping. I feel like there is no Pandora box or holy grail of programming. I feel like
there's not. It's
very similar, but like you said, find what's comfortable for you and.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, all the tools are trying to do the same thing. All the different video editors,
sure.
like image editors, whatever, they're all trying to do the same thing. It's just to edit a video or edit a thumbnail, like whatever it is. It's it's your understanding of that tool that will trump anything. You could use the worst never updated video editing tool ever, but if you know that tool back to front and better than anyone else, you can make a better video than someone who's just picked up Adobe Premiere and is just trying to make it work. Like it's really your understanding of the tool more than anything.
So if you could go back to the beginning of when you started doing all of this with the knowledge you have, what are some of the things, not obviously the programming, editing, whatever it may be, but what are some simple things you'd go back and tell yourself just starting?
I guess would be some of the early things that I would have liked to have done, and would be to understand what I was trying to do, why I'm making content, and what my content is, and figuring out what my brand is. I think is really important to figuring out those 2 to 3 specific things that I do that are important to the content and the brand that I am, and then just focusing on them and becoming an expert in that stuff. I spent a lot of time just kind of like fumbling around doing stuff, just kind of like making things and not really niching into like what I was trying to do, or really even thinking about it directly. Like I knew I wanted to do something, but I didn't really know what it was. And once I'd figured that out, it became so much more of a freeing experience, because I knew what my process was. I knew what I had to do, and it just became, the focus was just so much easier. Like it was just, it's like, I was standing at like a crossroads with like all these different paths and whatever. I didn't know what I needed to go on, but then like once I figured that out, it was so much easier to just follow that one specific path, because I knew what my path was. But yeah, like I guess one of the hard things that I would say that I wish I knew probably earlier is to believe in myself, because like it's when you making stuff as well and like it doesn't do what you think it will, or things don't seem to work out the way you think they're going to, it can be really hard to like not get bogged down into that, the stresses of it. And things move on. Like you just got to work on the next video and make the next whatever, and just kind of stick to that, like I don't want to say grind because I don't like the word grind, but stick to that process, and whatever your process is, and good things will happen.
Every time I hear the word grind for content creation or streaming, it's like, all right, what stream team is talking right now? Is like, come grind for this team. But I think it's a good mindset to have, especially early on, or there's all good ideas, like, and stuff that I have been bad about following myself. where like, and I hope you don't mind, but you know, after this, like my main set of questions, I kind of want to pick your brain a little bit on air, of course, so anyone else can get the information, just to have that constructive criticism of YouTube and everything, you know, because I think it's important to have, especially early on, like learn from your mistakes, learn from other people's mistakes, you know, so you don't have to make the same ones, you know. I think those are all important things to do. But before we go there, I did want to ask, because we've talked about basketball a couple times. Where did the basketball fascination start for you?
Well, realistically, it was from wanting to do something that my dad didn't know about,
Okay.
if that makes sense. So my dad was a very good Australian rules footballer. He would have made I guess in basketball, like NBA terms, it's the AFL is like the top league here for Australian rules. He was in his era, you could only get to the AFL if you were going to play for a specific team, if you're from a specific region. So like your like X team could only recruit players from X region, right?
Sure.
And my dad was like the best in our region, but they already had a player of the position that he played, so he never made that to the next level. But like he was just like in the town that we grew up in and like the surrounding football area, everyone knew who he was, right? And then growing up, when I obviously had to play Australian rules football, you know, I inherited his nickname, which was Tiger, because he was so vicious in the field. Yeah. So like everything was just like laser focused on me being his son and like being as good as him, and I was never as good as him. Like that was just never going to happen. I just didn't have it. And so that was kind of where I started looking at other sports, and then started looking at basketball. And he knew nothing about basketball, which was exciting for me, because then I got to learn it and be good at it, and he wasn't good at it. He's still terrible at it. I'm still better than him. So that's
amazing.
Good. And that's where it kind of started. And then, my older brother was super into basketball. So, we kind of grew from there together, and then eventually found the team, Miami Heat. Really liked them, really liked Dwayne Wade. I liked, he was small than everyone else, but he was so quick and explosive and just didn't really take any shit from anyone. And I really liked his style of play. And obviously they won the championship in the third year and stuff. And like Dwayne Wade really sparked the Miami Heat enjoyment. And yeah, I just never really looked back.
That's probably a good time to join, because so that was, what was the first year they won? 03?
2006 was the first year they won. Wade was drafted in 03.
That's right. The 03 draft class was crazy. But yeah, 06, Shaq was on that team, right?
Yep.
Oh my goodness. And then just a few years later, you got LeBron coming, you got Bosh coming, you got Ray Allen coming a year after. Oh my goodness. That team was so good. And that LeBron on the Heat might be the best player of all time. Like that significant, like that portion of his career, I don't know if there's a better player in NBA history than LeBron on the Heat during that time. He could shoot, he could slam, he could do everything. Defend, he was everywhere.
After the first year, I would agree with that. The first year he was not himself because of that weird dynamic with Wade. But that second year and probably the second year especially, but the third year as well, like he was on another level to anything. We had that 27 game win streak and whatever. He was incredible.
I think you're seeing the same thing right now with the Lakers, where that first year you're getting friends together, you're getting people who kind of know each other, and you're trying to have the combination of having fun and win a championship because the expectation is so high. And I think that first year expectation was too high. You met a really good Dallas team, which was you just met a really good Dirk that was on his game. And, it didn't play out, but it happens all the time. You know what I mean? It happens all the time. But I love that. I love to hear people's story about basketball. I'm a true nerd. I can almost talk to you about every finals. I could probably talk to you about most games, players, even Miami Heat. And I'm not even like a huge Heat fan. But y'all got a team between Bam, Butler, now Lowry over there. Like it's a really good team. So I'm excited to see them this year.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, same. First game starts in 9 minutes.
Oh, okay. Well, then I'll get you out of here. I usually go 2 hours. I'm gonna get you out of here. But let me pick your brain just a little bit. All right?
Yeah, go for it.
So the last question I ask on the podcast is: if you were in my shoes and you were a host of A Dash of Salt, what are some questions that you would be asking?
Oh, okay. As in asking myself or asking someone else? As
Guests,
in,
yeah,
whoever?
or yourself. That's a good one too. It helps me for future ones.
um, hmm. I'm not sure. I think you've asked like really good questions. I don't know if there's anything specifically that I can think of off the top of my head.
I love to hear that. I honestly do. I love to hear it when people are like, I don't know, you're doing pretty good.
Yeah. No, like I think we've covered a wide range of content, different things, Twitch, YouTube, everything that I kind of do. Um, yeah, I'm honestly not sure. I haven't got anything for you.
Perfect. I'll take that. I'll take it. That's a compliment to me. I'll take
For
it.
sure.
And then, if you could see someone as a guest on a Dash Assault, who would you suggest? Because
The co-op comedy crew, both of them.
I've had them on individually, but I think it would be amazing to have them on together. I think that would be a fun
get them
time.
both on.
I think that'd be a fun time.
Yeah. You got to
Awesome.
put a muzzle on Robert though.
Okay, I'll tell him. You got to wear a muzzle the whole time. That's awesome.
Yeah. Other than that though, like I think there's plenty of, especially in like the kind of funny sphere of that extended community of Twitch streamers and YouTubers and stuff. Like there's a lot of us that are all kind of doing similar things and trying to create a space for us. It's it's hard to say specifically who there's just so many people, right? Like it's hard to name and call out like one or two.
Who's your favorite? Who's your favorite streamer right now? Call him out. I'm just like,
I don't know about that. No, like I think there's a lot of streamers that I watch. I would say like if you're talking about streamers specifically, RoboDessert is probably my favorite streamer. I think he is has a very good understanding of how to run a successful stream. And he like really engaging, like he plays really interesting games that are very different to like what a lot of other people do. Has kind of carved out his own niche, knows what he's doing. And like I guess and I think one of the main things with any streaming is that like the times that I have time to click on Twitch is he's usually live. And so that obviously helps with him like getting my view, I suppose. Because if you're in bed or whatever, like being on the other side of the world for most people, like I miss a lot of people's streams just because I'm asleep during their stream time. But yeah, if like streams, I would say like he's probably the one that I'll always click on if he's live.
That's awesome. I pretty much watch everyone that I can. I try and watch Robert as well, but he streams so late for me. I can't always tune in there. I'm going to bed. I'm sleepy. I gotta wake up early.
Yep.
But let me pick your brain a couple things. I want to ask a couple YouTube questions just because I do want to grow my content, and you need the constructive criticism. Don't worry about hurting my feelings. You won't hurt my feelings. I was kind of joking earlier. I actually do take it all as constructive, and I will use this going forward. You don't have to take a look at my YouTube. It's really bad. Just don't even look at it.
Oh, I just clicked on it because you said to.
What are some things that, just looking at it right away, what would you suggest I focus on immediately? Changing the thumbnail. I literally didn't even know until last week that my home thing wasn't set up. I thought it did it itself, dude. I thought it did it. I thought it automatically posted a video and playlist. And someone was like, hey, your page looks like it doesn't even have any videos, right? I was like, are you serious? So I just learned that.
Yeah, no, that's super. The homepage is super important. You will actually find that you'll get a lot of views from the homepage, especially like your layout, how you set it out. So having that set out nicely is important. I think thumbnails, just looking at the channel, is something because there's no consistent.
No unity. There's no nothing. Yeah.
A lot of different colors, even different versions of like orange and stuff throughout. Like finding like a specific kind of theme would be good. Yeah, I don't really know.
The thumbnails are bad. I know
that.
I'm definitely going to work on that. That's a little thing. I got to try and find my branding for thumbnails. I think that's kind of what I'm working with right now. I see what people like you are doing and have success with your thumbnails. I see people with like co-op comedy, and their thumbnails they're amazing. Especially y'all's last Far Cry one with Robert and Robo. That thumbnail was amazing. I love that one. So I know I need to upgrade on that. one thing I did want to talk to you about and see what you think about this is truly podcasting. I want to be my main thing, right? I truly want podcasting to be my main. I kind of do the video game videos just because it's kind of fun and I'm on Twitch and I'm trying to grow more things. But I don't know if that's where my YouTube should lie, is on any gaming. Don't get me wrong, I could have like Saltonius plays or whatever it may be. But I'm wondering if I should just truly focus this channel on just podcasts, full episode podcasts, break that down into, let's say you were talking about do this and have a few different videos of several different conversations we had, or if I should just only do gaming, and not post any type of podcast. I'm really stuck in between what I should and shouldn't do. In your personal opinion, what do you think?
I guess part of it depends on what you want to do, but if podcasting is you want that to be your main thing, then that would be what I would focus on and pushing that. And if you were going to do that, posting the full podcast is something you should do. Obviously, post it on podcast platforms everywhere, wherever. On the YouTube side, posting the full podcast as well as cutting out important things or the best parts of that podcast and titling it, thumbnailing it, descripting it, whatever, as if it was a normal video, and posting that as its own thing will help with growth of the podcast and the channel overall, because that will then be treated as its own video for SEO, search engine optimization, and being its own evergreen content. So an example of like a conversation that we had about, why would you move from Twitch to YouTube, or why did you, figuring out like, you wouldn't brand that around why did NorZZa leave, because no one gives a shit about me, but you would brand that around like why leave Twitch for YouTube.
Yeah.
Make a thumbnail
Okay, I
about
like
that,
yeah.
have like whatever, and then just cut that part of the podcast out and just like start right from the start of when the video starts. Just play that, you asking the question, we get into it, we talk about it. And then at the end, just say like, this is a snippet of blah, 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 blah. You can go see the rest of the podcast here, but put that at the end because like, you want to have that content at the start, or even like try and figure out that balance of it, so that you're getting people straight in to have that, what's important. And most people would be able to tell that it's a podcast just by the platform, looking at the graphic or whatever, when you're actually like watching it, is probably the thing. And trying to figure out like a funnel is something that, as a term that I like to use, as to what is your funnel, where do people come from? You've already, not including your existing audience, right? They're already in the bottle, right? But your funnel itself, how do people find you? Where do they come from? And like, you need to figure out how to get your, if the podcast is going to be the main thing, you need to figure out how to get that in front of people's faces. And if it's on the YouTube side, it would be by snipping that out and really focusing on the SEO and the tags, the description, the title, thumbnail, everything of those, for getting clicks, viewer retention, everything. It's much easier to get a better watch time for a shorter video in a podcast and just cutting those sections out. And then, have all the other platforms, promote the podcasts on all the other podcasting platforms, wherever they are. But yeah, like if that's what you want to focus on, then that's what I would do if I was you, would be to cut those out. And then, focus on the branding side, like your thumbnails, everything, like set up the channel as if it is that, as if it is, the podcast is the main thing, and have that presented all over it. But yeah, if that's what you want to do, that's what I would do.
So a part of the skepticism of me wanting to do it is, one, it's like the channel Saltonius, right? It's me, my branding, right? But then I do have a dash of salt, where like, is that going to translate well to Saltonius? And then I have another podcast, which I don't even post to my channel. It's got its own YouTube channel, of Grower and the Shower. And I thought about moving that over to the channel as well, at least clippets, maybe not the full podcast, but at least like snippets of the podcast. But then again, I was like, well, will it make sense to what this channel is with just Saltonius? Like, would it be smart to change the name of the channel to match the podcast, or do you think it'd be fine to stick with the branding of who I am?
I would change the name, but not to the. If you've got two different podcasts, it depends whether you're going to. If they are similar enough in terms of content and viewer base, they would be listening to them to be on the same channel, or whether they should be separate. But if they should be separate, then A Dash of Salt should have its own channel. It should be the name of the channel for SEO purposes. People, if they
Yeah.
actually search for that, it helps with that branding. And also it helps with like if you're cutting them out to like parts of the podcast, you don't want to. Say for example, right, the channel right now is Saltonius, and you've got like gameplay stuff or whatever there. And if you were posting stuff from a podcast like The Grower and Show, if you're posting it on that channel, but it has its own channel, your funnel is funneling people to the wrong area.
True.
You know,
Yeah.
you're not sending them to where they actually need to go. Like
That's true.
you want to have it on the same channel with, you cut that out when they watch those videos. They're like, okay, I want to come and see more of this. That then sends them to the podcast, or they click subscribe, or they just stay in that ecosystem of that channel. So that's why I think you should either, depending on what the two podcasts are, if they're similar enough to put them together, figure out a name that's like your branding of your groups of podcasts. Think a la Kind of Funny, Easy Allies, that kind of thing, or keep them separate on their own channels.
That makes sense. That actually does make a lot of sense. At that point, I think I'm more towards leaning, starting a whole different channel for a Dash Assault. It just like you said. So, one, I changed the thumbnail of what a Dash Assault looks like or whatever, and then it was just, podcast, 3 gaming videos, podcasts, 4 gaming videos, podcast. It just, I feel like they didn't get any clicks or views just because that's not what this channel was. So my mind has kind of been either change this channel with the viewership I have, or just start a new one. And I think I should just, with the podcast, I should just start a new one. It just makes more sense that way. Re-upload all the videos to that, and then maybe still have the gaming thing, because I do enjoy it. I do enjoy the gaming and editing a gaming video and putting it out there. But with everything together, it just didn't make sense. So I truly do appreciate that. I think I was battling internally with what is the right move, and hearing someone who has a little bit of success on YouTube, it kind of just reiterates what I was thinking. So, thank you.
Yeah, no worries. Happy to help.
And how important? I guess this is the last one. How important is my face in a thumbnail?
Depends on the content. Something like Co-op Comedy, using them as an example, which we have before, their content's very personality driven.
Yeah, exactly.
It's about the two of them. It's about the Robert and Chris. So they should have it in there. But for something like my content, which isn't really about me, it's about the game. My face shouldn't be in the thumbnail. There's no point in it. No one cares. It's about the game itself. It depends on the content you're making, I guess, is the point. For using this as an example, a dash of salt, like the thumbnail should have a specific style, and then probably the guest, the logo of the podcast, and the guest's face on it. For like your gameplay stuff, if you were going to post like gameplay videos, depending on the focus of them, if it's like personality content, kind of like an extension of Twitch, like it's more just you like playing the game, kind of comedic style, whatever it may be, then I would have your face in it. But it's it depends, right? Like on what it's for, I would say.
Truly enlightening. I've learned so much just from talking to you today, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm gonna let you go get to your Miami Heat game. I won't hold you back any longer. For anyone, I know you're having problems right now, but I have very high hopes that you'll get it back soon. But for anyone who doesn't know, where can they find you? Where can they get you at?
So normally you could find me at youtube.com/NorZZa, but you can't right now. So you can find me at twitter.com/NorZZaTV, because someone has NorZZa on Twitter, and Twitter won't give me the NorZZa handle. So I'm NorZZaTV on social media. But you can find me there, probably primarily all the time. Updates on channel and videos and whatever would be probably the best place to send you at the moment, while the channel's being sorted by YouTube.
Awesome. Well, I have high hopes that you'll get that back soon. I loved everything that I saw. And last thing is, you can say no if you want, but I love seeing people's growth. And I think that, through this podcast, I've made some really cool connections. So if you would do me the honor of possibly sitting down here in like 6 months and see the growth, see where we've gone, and see how much everyone's improved.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. Reach out. Let's do it.
Awesome, man. Well, have a great morning for you. Enjoy your day, and thank you so much for joining me.
No worries. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure to sit down and talk with you.
Thank you. Bye.